Hello, the PSN community. I'm Asif, the community manager, and today we are joined by Andrew Selmes. Welcome, Andrew. It's great to have you. Would you like to tell our lovely viewers what you do?
Yes, I've been a landlord for about 10 years for numerous properties, helped friends buy and sell properties, and that got the bug early. And a lot of people said, you need to go into property, you're really good at it. So I did lots of rent to rent, lots of leases, lots of tenancy agreements, and actually helped some friends and family buy some houses. So I set up a company called BERWYN Property Services, and we help investors get really good prices on properties if they're wanting to buy a portfolio for pensions. But we also do a service where we're building a property portfolio. So we do joint ventures and we go and buy a property, usually buy and refurb. But yeah, we're doing that across the UK. So we've got quite a large network and we're based in sunny Cheshire, although it's not very sunny today.
It's definitely not sunny out there at the moment. But you've mentioned it a little bit, but how did you actually get into it?
Yeah, it was I landed on being a landlord about 11 years ago when I moved to another house in Cheshire, and I thought I'd keep that one because the prices that I was getting on the market were very poor. And then about 2 years in, a friend of mine said, "Oh, I've got a number of properties. Can you act as an agent for me?" While he worked, he went to Dubai and then landed up in Japan, I think. So I managed about 2 or 3 properties for him as the landlord in the UK as a point of contact. And then another one landed into my lap when a friend in the Midlands said, "I've got 2 properties, I need to get rid of them. Can you negotiate a really good price for me?" And I've got a history of sales and marketing with companies like GSK, Nivea and Warburton's. And I did a really good job for him, and that word spread. And then fast forward to about 2 years ago, I thought, well, there's something in here. And I was coming out of a contractor job in sales and marketing, and I thought, I'm going to get really into this. So I got involved with a few people who were selling off portfolios, landlords who were retiring and going living abroad. And then one of them said to me, as we completed the deal on a flat, they said, "Look, you should get into property. You know how to buy and sell, you know how to market, you know how to do the negotiation, which is probably 45% of the issues. You've dealt with the tenancy issues, you've had good tenants, bad tenants, you've got a lot of experience in that." And it's amazing how transferable that skill set is. So a lot of the people I network with now are builders, architects, and some of them I asked their previous job, and there's that kind of sales and marketing line to it. A lot of them have come into marketing as a good thing, and it's about using that skill set. So yeah, BERWYN Property Services was set up. We did a soft launch in May, June, my partner and I, Chris. And we really went live. We did a lot of education, we did a lot of mentoring. And the last year I've really spent, I suppose you call it co-sourcing. So I've worked with a company in Chester and worked on deal packaging, and that was a really valuable lesson to have that. It was effectively free training because I was working on direct to vendor. I was working on some houses and flats that needed refurbs and then passing them on and then seeing how that process goes along. And a lot of people are really interested in property. If you go to a pub or you meet some friends for a dinner party, or you go to the football, the first thing they'll talk about is, you know, music, sport, and then invariably property comes up because I think it's one of the nation's most favourite topics to talk about. And it seems to be in the news a lot with interest rates and the mortgages, and some of the actions of the last Prime Minister raised a few eyebrows. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And the great thing about BERWYN Property Services is it's all about the people. It's all about adding value. We have investors who are on board with us, but don't have the funds yet. So they join our silver tier. And we have the gold ones who are ready to invest now within the next 3 months. And personally, we want to get to about 10 or 15 properties in the next 2 years for the portfolio.
Amazing. So obviously doing quite a lot then. So what would you say your biggest win has been so far?
On our website on berwynservices.co.uk, we've just listed our past, present, and future cases, and in there we are going to be honest. We had one a refurb recently where the person who was moving out of the house decided to stay on holiday for another month. So that really did delay a lot of the processes. But out of that, as a gesture back, they've decorated the house for us for free, top to bottom, which is a really nice win, a really nice gesture. So I think that comes a lot about people. You know, they realised that they've delayed the solicitors and delayed the process, but they gave back with something. So we felt that was quite a nice win. That was quite a nice human thing to do. And then we've got a project at the moment, which I'm going to see early next week, which is 2 houses that are being refurbed, and I think it will be one of the best deals that we have for an investor. So I think at the moment I'm sitting on that golden opportunity. So I can't really go into much detail, but it was a direct to vendor find that we were looking at property A, and down at the end of the road on the corner was this little gold gem, and we just knocked on the door, put a leaflet through, and that snowballed. So I always advise people, when you go and do a viewing, spend another 20 minutes, go and walk down the street, you know, go and grab a coffee in the local cafe or a McDonald's or a Costa, and just look around and just see what's in the area, because you can find some gold mines.
That's an amazing tip. No, certainly. Obviously, property can be difficult at the same time. What would you say your biggest learning has been so far?
I think my advice to anyone going into this to do what we do in terms of joint ventures and deal packaging is really get to know your investors and invest a lot of time in that. I see some people who go out shopping before they've got the money, before they've got the investor. And I've seen people fall over with that. So I was lucky in the fact when I was co-sourcing, I learned from that, and I also had the backup of the company. I would say the timings can be a real challenge when yourself and the investor are already on a set timeline. Processes like solicitors, people moving houses and chains, they can look great on Monday, but that Monday at 10 a.m. everything can change. And I did have somebody about 2 months ago who agreed on a direct to vendor, really good price. They were happy with the timings. They needed to move on, they needed to relocate for a job, and at the 11th hour they just decided to stay in their house, so the deal was off. So I say to people, it's never over until you exchange. So that's been quite a learning for me in terms of how things out of your control just suddenly can appear. And I would recommend people have really strong contingency plans, because when you need them to be really working and strong for both parties. But yeah, I think we've myself, Chris and I, we worked really hard, and we've got a good network with the estate agents, and we're just really open and honest. We hope our website, berwynservices.co.uk, is clear to read. It doesn't have 160 pages. We'll say everything we can on a one-pager. We have PDFs for our investors. We have networking events. I went to one last week in Manchester, and I've got another one next week. We're all here trying to earn a good living. You spend a third of your life working, you might as well enjoy it and get some value out of it.
Agreed, absolutely. And I can see that you're actually posting about your case studies in the PSN Facebook group as well. So I did actually have a read the other day around that as well.
No. Excellent, thank you.
So there you go as well. So you've mentioned it briefly before as well. What is your plans for the future? Where would you like to take this?
We want to get to about, we reckon about 19 or 18 houses in the next 18 months, 2 years. We appreciate that can come quickly or slower to build a portfolio. We also realise that a lot of the work that we do can be quite remote. So if I'm working in Portugal for 2 weeks, I can still run the business. I can still have people going and doing viewings for me. I have a very good network. So I think that has, in the last 4 months, that has enabled us to look at a much wider scale. We did get contacted from a lady in the Holland who's looking to buy flats in the northwest, Manchester, Leeds, Liverpool area. So that's been quite good, and we didn't expect that in our business plan. So that's opened up another avenue, which is quite exciting, which we're going to look at into early next year. To answer your question, for the next 6 months, it's really about building the investor database and contacts, meeting their expectations. We find that when you do joint ventures, sometimes people will turn around and say, keep the money. If we do a joint venture that we did it in the middle of the year, we gave the investor back £10,000, which he said paid for his holiday, paid for him to buy a motorbike and paid for him to do some DIY in his house. And he says, well, keep the money and do it again, because you can have it for another 9 months. So that's beautiful. That's the repeat business, and then they become our ambassadors. So that's really a beautiful place to be. And we're just really open and honest. I think we tell everyone what we do is another good tip, I would say. So if I'm in B&Q or if I'm in the local hardware store, I'll leave some leaflets there. I'll tell them what I do. Electricians and plumbers and plasterers can be a really useful source of information both ways, in terms of we can use them and they can use us. So our network is also expanding on to another level. So it's not just the what you would call the 9 to 5 networking. It's quite a dynamic one, and it includes a lot bigger than we expected at the beginning of the business. And yeah, I think we want to become a trusted provider. We don't do HMOs and we don't do rent to rents. So the training I had over the last year, I was given a really good piece of advice: focus on 2 areas and become the expert at it, so that you're the go-to person for it. So I think it's the Croup-Prenol. It does what it says on the tin. It's a really good advertising slogan. Or Kit Kat, take a break. I love that. It says exactly what you want and it lands that message. So we're going to be deal packaging and joint venturing, but we're not going to do other portfolios. I see other people get attracted by the bright lights and the money, maybe. And what is the saying? You can become a master of 100 things, but a master of nothing. We are going to be just joint ventures, deal packaging.
Perfect. So you've obviously given a lot of advice in this Feature Friday, but if you could go back to being 16-year-old, what advice would you give yourself?
Gosh, I think the couple of things is, I've had a very successful career since then, so I feel proud of some of the achievements I've done. I would probably say things that aren't property is, I would go traveling a lot more. When I finished my A-levels, there was an opportunity to go away for 6 months with a friend of mine to Australia, and I just didn't have the money at the time. I could have done, a paper job or a part-time job, and I should have done that to get that ticket to Australia. And I would probably have started my own business rather than doing it in my 40s. I would probably do it, say, in my early 20s. I look at people like Richard Branson, John Caldwell, who's a local guy up here in Staffordshire, who's very, very successful. And I admire that determination, the Alan Sugar, the people I see on Dragon's Den. And I had that bubbling away in my 20s and 30s, but I didn't really address it. And life can go very, very quickly. So my advice would be, go and get some education, which I did in some of the big companies like Nivea and GSK, but then go off, do your own thing, become the expert. And as I said earlier, people always talk about property to me because they know what I'm doing, and they'll give an opinion. And I think it's quite an interesting thing. So if you've got that bug and you're 16, go and pursue it. Go try it. As Theo Paphitis once said, it's better to try 5 things and fail. And when you're successful on one of them, it will change your life, and that can work. And the great thing about property is, I saw on a YouTube video the other day, it's a great leveler. You don't have to have a lot of money to start it. It's about network. It's about your USP. It's about enjoying it, adding value. And it's so open to anyone to come into the sector. So I would say to myself, do that. I would also say, don't buy that very expensive motorbike and car that you bought when you were 18, because that tended to empty my bank account. And annoy my neighbours because it was very loud and used to break down a lot. So my parents got annoyed with picking me up all the time in it. But no, I think it's been good. In summary, travel and start your own business. And I think that's a really good thing, traveling, because you see the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So where would you like to go if you could travel?
I was watching that Race Across the World clip the other day. I've always loved Japan. I think it's an amazing country. You can do skiing, you can go on bullet trains, you can have a 15th century house right next to a skyscraper. And I got told by somebody the other day who's just come back from Japan, Japan is the same size as it is from London to Bristol, is Tokyo, is the in terms of the capital. and it's so huge. You're trying to get your head around that distance from Bristol all the way to London is Tokyo. That's how big it is. But I'm also a fan of the motorbikes from Honda and Kawasaki and Suzuki, so it's a bit of a homeland thing. And then another friend of mine at the beginning of the year was in Vietnam, and I don't know if you've seen the Top Gear episode where they go on the motorbikes north to south.
Yeah.
It just looks amazing. It just looks totally amazing. What about yourself? Where would you go if you could go now?
So for me, it would be India. So the reason why is because of the food, the culture, but actually I'm a big cricket fan, and going to India and seeing 100,000 Indians going crazy for cricket would be unbelievable, I think. So that's for me the highlight.
They are very passionate about their cricket and very good at it as well.
Very good at it. Well, the World Cup is in India next month. I think India have got a very strong chance, as of Pakistan and maybe England, but I think England will probably miss out because it's in Asia this time, so rather than being in the UK.
Be a good battle anyway.
It will be. So one of the things that we love to do with our Feature Friday guest speakers is to learn a little bit more about them outside of property. So I play a little bit of a game, and it's called This or That. It's very straightforward. I'll give you two options. Option one might be apple. Option two might be banana. And you just have to quickly choose which one you prefer. So the first one is coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Night out or night in?
Night in.
Facebook or LinkedIn?
Oh, I'm not a fan of either of them. I would have to go for LinkedIn.
Would that be for business purposes?
Business purposes, yeah. It also enables me to catch up with some work colleagues from like 20, 30 years ago and see where they are. And I think Facebook has got a lot of advertising, which I think LinkedIn controls really well.
Agreed. Success or happiness?
Happiness.
And would you be the smartest man in the world or the richest man in the world?
Smartest, because then I could become rich.
Agreed. Well, Andrew, you've been great. Is there anything else you would like to add for our lovely viewers?
No, so just come and have a look at our website, BERWYN Services, get in contact with us, link with us, share information. It's all about networking. The whole community and basis and thesis we have is all about, helping everybody enjoy their lives as much as they can. And if that could be in property, then fantastic. So yeah, thank you for this as well.
No, thank you for coming on the show. Right, guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's Feature Friday. For now, keep being amazing, and we'll see you very soon. Bye.